All right, welcome to the Detroit Lions News podcast. I'm your host, Joe Chap, and with my co-host, we announced today officially because we must have forgot what we're all entrenched in. Like, what is Taylor Decker gonna do? What is Kirby Joseph gonna do? And we kind of forgot about it. So James is the official. He's officially on the podcast for here on out, and it's good because James gives a unique perspective and it's been fun having him on the podcast, and we did a lot of great things. A lot of people enjoyed our positional breakdown, James, until last week when people got on me about not giving Terrion Arnold too much love, giving Kirby Joseph saying that he was never going to come back, which I didn't say he was never going to come back. And then it was a total train wreck last week. Uh, but it wasn't a train wreck. It was just people were like, why are you giving Terrion Arnold love? Why don't you think Kirby Joseph's coming back? And I'm like, I don't know Kirby Joseph. Like, I don't know what's going on with him. Like, I really don't know. I don't think anybody knows. I did give Terrion Arnold credit because he had a decent year aside from the penalty. So it was just fun to hear all of everyone's reactions. But man. Now, before we start, Rod Wood is going to step down as the team president, which is a notable news. I think that opens the door for someone to stay in the organization. So this might be a good thing because Mike Disner could potentially get that team president role. Now, I heard from a lot of people, no one that's in the know, a lot of people like fans, right? On social media, they're like Sanders, Barry Sanders, Chris Spielman.
People were saying Barry Sanders.
They were saying Barry Sanders, Chris Spielman, and what was the last one? Someone brought up some off the wall name. I think like Ernie Sims or something. I don't know why. Anyways, team president is a totally different job. Obviously, Mr. James can speak on it.'s a season ticket holder. Rod Wood did play a role in upping his season tickets.
Normally, tweet about Rod Wood at least once or twice a year about ticket stuff and whatnot.
So it happens. I mean, but Rod Wood did do a damn good job with the Detroit Lions, and in terms of, I think the biggest thing about Rod Wood, and I told this on the page, I said on Twitter, believe, what Rod Wood did for the brand of the Detroit Lions, A1. I mean, the reversal of the new uniforms, which is great. I like the new uniforms. The new uniforms look pretty sweet. Homage to the past of the 90s. Obviously, he played a huge role in Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes getting hired because it was very rare that they would hire a GM and a coach separate. I don't think people remember how rare that was.
I was convinced that they would mess that up. Like it was almost like it took me a while to even get over that. I was like, no, like if they do it like this, like there's no way it'll work for the Lions.
And it did work, and it was crazy because I don't think anybody thought it would actually like really work, and it did work. So kudos to them. Everyone in the like NFL Network, they always talk. I mean, not NFL Network, Sirius XM. They always talk about that once where the ownership hired Campbell and Holmes differently and said you guys are going to play nice together. So it's an interesting dynamic. But what Rod Wood did for the branding. Everything from that standpoint, the NFL draft coming into Detroit, he was a huge part of that. The Final Four coming in a couple years, he was a huge part of that. I think that's got to be put into perspective. And a lot of people think team president has anything to do with football relations. They're just on the business side. They don't care about pro personnel. They don't care about college draft picks. They just care about the business side. And I think a lot of people don't really understand that, but that's why we're here to tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I have to add to this too, because I didn't even realize it, but when I heard I heard this on Locked On Lions, where it was Rod Wood that was really the one that like fully pissed off Calvin Johnson because he like made remarks about like if he really deserved his bonuses and stuff. There was a lot. I remember when Rod Wood first got hired, people were like, they just. Yeah, and I think that might be mostly just a misunderstanding of like what that role is. But I think that maybe rubbed people the wrong way because they felt like he did step into at least some football stuff, maybe not like personnel, but yeah, I would agree with pretty much everything you said there, and I think he did probably do way more really positive things that most people realize. And then yeah, I've seen most people throw. I think Mike Disner is the name I've seen the most thrown out there. And the thing that I guess I'm most interested in that is if it is this non-football role, is that something Mike Disner wants to be in? Because he's someone that seemingly is on track to maybe be a GM. Like
Hmm.
like he's maybe he could have maybe gotten one of those jobs the last couple of years. He hasn't, but is that still his desire? Because to me, the president and his role right now is, kind of the finances side of the football roster, and then other football related uh, stuff that you could credit him a lot. I just mentioned the Calvin Johnson thing. Ironically, Mike Disner's the one that's most credited with saving the Calvin Johnson relationship. So
Hmm.
he's done a bunch of different things beyond just being a great like capologist, which I think is maybe his most direct role with the roster right now. But yeah, that's where I'm just curious of, does he want to even be the president? And if he does, would there be some sort of morphing of the role? Because I think you would still want Mike Disner to do a lot of the stuff he's doing right now. So that would actually kind of intrigue me if it is Mike Disner and it is maybe a little bit of an expansion on what that role has been with Rod Wood. Because I don't necessarily think it always has to be a non-football guy.
Hmm.
It just kind of depends on how they want to structure that and who they want to hire and what maybe what their desires are. So it is a really big opening at the end of the day, and I'm pretty interested to see how they go about filling it.
Yeah, I think team president is one of those roles where like you want a guy who understands the business of football and or business in general, especially with branding, marketing, especially like landing sponsorship deals, all that jazz. Like you want a business guy. And Mike Disner, if he wants the job, it's his. I That's my firm belief. And there's some people that say, oh, he could take a GM job. I would say you have a better chance of not getting fired being a team president than you do with a general manager. And it's a little bit like this, like where like you're general manager of the let's say you get hired by the Jets next year, okay? Terrible situation. You have a terrible owner. Like it could be Arizona, like terrible ownership. They don't put a good product on the field. They don't put a good product off the field for the players. You got to be selective on that. And it's like, okay, if you're a guy like Mike Disner, like you really have your pick of the litter. And if you want a team president job, you can get it. And at any point, you can go, I want to be a general manager, and you can leave. That's just the way it goes. So I
Agreed.
do think it's important that he makes the right decision for him. And I think that's team president because look, there's not many ways you get fired like team president unless you're Tom Lawand, who was a total numbskull. I mean, what a nutcase that guy was. Nice guy. He's a very nice guy, but he is a total nutcase in terms of the way that he structured things with the Detroit Lions. So I would say team president would be the way to go. But yeah, Rod Wood leaving is a little bit of a big. It's a big thing that's happening, and it's going to affect the Detroit Lions in some way or another. So I think that's just where it's probably going to be on the topic of mind, like who they hire because
Do you
they're
think
doing.
he would normally do like his main interview at the GM meetings, which I think have to be coming up. I should know the NFL calendar better, but um
No, it changed all the time. So when are the GM meetings? GM
yeah.
meetings.
And it should we should point out too that he's still the Rod Wood's still currently with the Lions, and he'll stay there until they hire the next guy,
Yeah,
which is why I'm kind of interested if he'll what the timeline of this will look like, because I assume he'll either if Rod Wood will probably still do his he normally does like a 15-20 minute interview that the Lions post at those meetings. So we could get maybe more of an insight from him on what that role could look like, or I'd just kind of be curious to hear from him again.
so
Or if
the
not, then
the
it'd probably mean we'd hire someone by then.
the general managers meeting is March 4th through the 7th
Oh
in
wow!
San
So,
Antonio.
I'm
So
assuming we probably won't make that hire, and he'll probably talk at that. I assume.
unless it's Disney, but I think that'd be the last time he talks.
Yeah.
Um, Interesting about the GM meetings. I do want to make this known because I've heard from people that I don't that are in the game, and this is one of the things that they've been talking about. And James, I want your opinion because I think it's a freaking phenomenal idea. They're thinking about eliminating the off onside kick, eliminating it, so it will be
Mhm.
going by the wayside
And it's
instead
like
of be a instead of be a 4th and 15,
a
and you'd have to get the convert. And I'm
I'm
like, okay,
happy to share my honest thoughts on this.
you go
Yeah, no,
ahead.
I hate it. I personally hate that. I just for to me, I just view it as like if you're doing an onside kick, you've basically been outplayed to the point where you're gonna lose, barring like
Mhm,
a total miracle. And like a 4th and 15 is in my mind, not really that insane. Like nowhere close to an onside kick. I mean, teams convert a 3rd and 15, like not all the time, but like nothing crazy. So it'd be interesting. It'd make the game like way less over. Like the NFL already is a league where the spreads are, if it's 6.5, it's like, oh my gosh, this team's going to destroy them. So the NFL already has amazing competitiveness and parity, and this would just make it even more so because that would, I'm sure the percentages of a 3rd and 15 or a 4th and 15 are still very low, but compared to an onside kick where it's like you make and the whole league might get, two, and that would be a lot for a year. The Bears had that ridiculous win against the Packers where they recovered an onside kick and won.
yeah.
And that was like almost the first death blow on the Lions cushion to get a playoff chance. So like that was a miracle that they pulled that off, but it'd be way less of one for just a 3rd and 15. So I don't know. I like the onside kick is worthless, and I get it, but it's worthless because like the team lost basically and should lose, and now you're giving them way more of a free spin back in the game. So that's the part I don't like about it.
So I did research into this because I wanted to know. So if you're 4th and 1, your conversion rate is 72 to 65%, which is if you're 4th and 1, you should get to the 4th and 1.
Yeah,
It drops significantly to 4th and 3. It goes 52 to 48%. 4th and 5 goes 42 to 38. And then if you're 4th and 10, 4th and 10 is 26 to 22%. 4th and 15 is 22 to 18%. So
22 to 18 to 22% is
yeah,
4th and 15. I mean, and the
that
onside kick is like 0.000001 basically. So I
so
mean, that's significant.
basically 18 to 22 conversion rate means every roughly 1 out of every 5 attempts succeeds.
Wow.
That's basically what they're saying, and I think that's something that I think a lot of general managers, if this is really brought up at the rules meeting, like it was talked about, and I think ESPN and NFL Network, NFL Series talked about it. Like they were talking about, like this could potentially be a thing that they want to do to kind of enhance the game experience because the onside kick is total trash, and
I
so
can't disagree there. Yeah.
it's either they just do away with the onside kick and they find something else, or they do the onside kick and they go back to like the regular rules. Like that would probably be the best bet. But when you got to declare an onside kick, it kind of defeats the purpose
Yeah,
of an
that's
onside
yeah,
kick. So,
that is a big part of it. You can't even do a surprise one now is kinda lame.
and then they want to, I guess one of the things they want to do is they want to. It used to be 3 years you can go ahead and draft picks. Now they want to make it 5 years and draft picks, which is a terrible idea for these crappy organizations because
What was that one you said?
okay, so right now you can only trade 3 years from now
Oh,
of
okay,
draft picks.
gotcha, yeah.
They want to make it 5 years. So
Wow, that'd be interesting. People would just start flying those things around to get deals
well,
done.
I mean, imagine if Bob Quinn he's trading a 2024 third round pick, and you're like, no, no,
Like,
no.
some team will just stockpile, like, a like, 50 more picks than
Yeah,
anyone else.
they're like the Oklahoma City Thunder where
Yeah, some
they have
team
like
will do that.
80,000 picks, and you're like, dude,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do with all that? Like, you can't even use
Honestly,
all of
I
it.
like that. I'm gonna say I'm on board for this rule proposal. I like that.
Some general manager is
It's
gonna
gonna
take
be
advantage of it
Yeah, I
to
think
it.
you would have to be like, it would to me, it's a thing that you gotta be responsible, but also it creates more action and also incentivizes teams for making good deals and holding off on bad ones, and
Yeah.
I like that one. I think it adds a that would add a lot, actually. I like that.
The thing that makes it interesting is in the NHL, I think it's 4 years. I think in the NBA, it's like 5 or 6 years. Obviously, Major League Baseball, they don't trade draft picks, they trade prospects, which is a little bit of a different dynamic, but, it's funny because in the NHL, all these general managers, they talk about all over hockey, Elliot Friedman, all the insiders, they talk about how these general managers are scared to make trades because they don't wanna give up draft picks that could potentially haunt them. Like, they brought up something that, Detroit fans can understand. The Canucks traded for Philip Hronik one year, and they gave him a first round pick, which ended up being Axel Sandin Pellikka, which Pellikka might be better than Philip
Nice,
Hronik.
nice, Stevie.
Yeah, so that was a good one. And then there's also another one which is hilarious because I hate the Maple Leafs with a passion. And the Maple Leafs traded Minton for in that first round pick for Brandon Carlo, and that ended up hurting them. So I could see an NFL team doing that. Like the Jets just get totally like lost in the sauce and go first round picks for the next 5 years for a quarterback. And some teams like, dude, we'll give you Tua right now.
I like it. I like this rule proposal.
It would be very interesting to be
It
honest.
would
I
be.
I can't even lie. I think that would make the trade deadline a lot more active, in my
Agreed.
opinion.
Yeah, I think yeah, exactly. And I think the league would want more teams to try to make exciting moves for their fan bases.
So, okay. Last week I talked about this. I want your opinion. Like, there's nothing certain with this team right now. Taylor Decker, we don't know. Kirby Joseph, we don't know. Let's take it a step further. Brian Branch, we kind of think we know, but we really don't know. We don't know about Grant. We know Graham Glasgow is probably gone. But there's a lot of stuff that we don't know. So like we're gonna do our needs and our free agency targets, and I think there's a lot of things that could potentially put a cog in the wheel. Like if you want to tackle Taylor Decker retires, oh man, that could be a little bit tough. But I just think this there's nothing certain with this team, and I can't remember a time where they had more uncertainty with the team.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm hoping we're pretty close to at least getting past the first level of that because we are starting to see teams now restructure contracts. We saw that with Patrick Mahomes creating a comical amount of cap space by restructuring his deal, which I guess I wasn't even aware. They just keep like they just keep doing that over and over again and keep creating more space. And they're ultimately at the end of that, it'll hurt them. But and then we're seeing guys get cut and rumors of okay, this team's probably going to move on from this guy and so and so. So you would think we're going to get some sort of information on that with Taylor Decker soon. I would think the Lions at this point have to have some bit of an idea, but again, it's all we kind of thought that with Taylor Decker or with Frank Ragnow, and then they kind of said no, it was much later that we actually knew for sure. So yeah, I'm hoping we get, as soon as we get some information on Taylor Decker, then you can start to, maybe connect the dots. One thing I will point out though is I think it was Daniel Jeremiah today had
Hmm.
some sort of a press conference
Yeah,
call.
like a conference call. Yeah.
Yeah, and he said the Lions were, I don't know the exact terminology on it, but like pretty interested in free agent tackles. To
Yeah.
which, I mean, if you see that, I mean, you're like, okay, so Taylor Decker's retiring then because there'd be no real reason to be super interested in free agent tackles if Taylor Decker wasn't back. So is that the first sign that Taylor Decker is not going to be back? I mean, we won't know until that announcement gets made. So, but yeah, I think you're right. There's a lot that with that on the offensive line alone, that could reshape and should basically shape their entire offseason in terms of how they want to attack the offensive line. And then certainly with the safeties being injured, as we'll talk about later in the show, I have a safety on my top five free agent targets, and I think this is actually a pretty deep safety class. And just with some of the uncertainty with the injuries, it might just go hand in hand that the Lions do want to grab some sort of a insurance player that can also maybe
Mhm.
just be a chess piece for them if and when those guys all do get back. And then yeah, there with the defensive line, we saw the news earlier a couple weeks ago where they're gonna well, technically Levi Onzarike and Josh Pascal are on the defensive line for another year because their contract's told, but they're really not locked in as far as key contributors. And you can, Alex Anzalone tweeting a couple days ago. That was kind of
Yeah. Oh my god.
that was a
See,
fun little 24 hours on Twitter with him, and he deletes
that's
his tweet, and we did. So yeah, there's he probably won't be back though. I think most Lions fans, if we're talking about just what do we think will happen, and he probably won't be back is what the consensus has been even during the season. DJ Reader probably won't be back.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean we need and what we're March 9th is the tampering window opening, which is right around the corner. So
Yep.
there is a lot of uncertainty, but it feels like we're basically any second away from things going down as far as retirements, contract restructures, and then ultimately free agency is going to be right there, and they're going to be adding guys.
It's interesting because next week I think Brad Holmes will speak because the combine is Tuesday, which we will obviously be doing a podcast Thursday to kind of wrap, do if he does talk. Obviously, me and James could do something quick or whatever on Tuesday or whatever. But here's the deal: there's nothing certain. You mentioned Alex Anzalone, like didn't need that, dude. Like really didn't need that. He I don't know why he keeps talking. Like it's just like, come on, dude. But it kind of gives you a glimpse, like DJ Reader talking, Alex Anzalone talking. Maybe there was a kind of an issue with the whole locker room dynamic because I mean, you have two players that literally came out. DJ Reader came out right out of the gate saying, "Oh, I'll go somewhere else, bro. I'll get paid somewhere else." It's like, all right, go somewhere else then, dude. Like, we don't really need you. Like, Tyleek Williams will take your place. Maybe you get Roy Lopez, he'll take your place. But I just think this whole thing is funny, man. Like this, there's nothing certain, and the whole tackle thing. There's people that are like, "Oh, I want Braden Smith. He misses so much time. I want Rasheed Walker." Do you really want Rasheed
He's
Walker?
going to
Do
be
you want to
incredibly
pay
expensive.
Rasheed
I
Walker?
don't think they're going to get him just off contract alone.
And
He'll get paid a ton by someone.
yeah, I hope it's not the Detroit Lions because Rasheed Walker, I like him as a player, but oh my god, Al Carson put this out on Twitter. He says Braden Smith has met twice as many games as Decker over the last 3 seasons and would require Sewell to shift to left tackle. Sewell could thrive at left tackle, but ideally that move is for a long-term cornerstone at right tackle, not a stopgap veteran. Jermaine Illuminor, who I've mentioned on this podcast before.
That's the guy, by the way, that was like kind of clowning Hutch during the game this
yeah,
where he said like Hutch did absolutely nothing, and he's the type of guy that celebrates after one play or something like that. I totally forgot about that till someone brought that to my attention. I was like, oh yeah, wow, that is that guy.
You gotta love it because I mean, if he comes in the locker room, like I think that's the first thing that gets talked about. There's guys like Jonah Williams, Cam Robinson was terrible last year, totally terrible. I don't want him at all. Trent Brown and Calvin Beecham. Spencer Buford has mostly guard experience, but he played left tackle and recently backed up Trent Williams. And if Decker retires, like free agency wise, I don't know who you're gonna get him. Like there's not really a suitable guy to come in and take his place. People got to remember that last year Taylor Decker was 15th in pressure rate. 15th. That's with the injuries. That's with the total just dumpster fire that was happening at left guard. Like let's just be honest. Like it was a total dumpster fire. Either Cologne or we had Mahogany, which Mike Clay said you better just replace Mahogany. I said, yep, that's exactly what I would do for sure. But I look at this whole free agency class. I don't like it. And if you want to be honest, like if you go to like the Pro Football Focus, if you go to you go to do the draft, like you look up draft guys, there's not many left tackles available. Like there really is not. It's a very scarce crowd. So you would probably have to move Sewell to the left because I don't think you would find a pure left tackle. You know what I'm saying? You'd probably want to
Freeling in the draft from Georgia.
I like Monroe Freeling.
Honestly, I think you can find someone in the draft. It's not going to be like probably going to be a lot of growing pains, whoever you take.
Yeah, that's what I worry about too. Because I mean, like Now, if
Yeah,
Spencer,
there's not some great there truly is not some great like and I'd argue that would probably be the best, most exciting, by far biggest upside move is drafting someone in the first or second round. But yeah, there's not like some super exciting free agent at left tackle. And if you're taking a rookie at and then that's why I think people are so deterred from wanting to fill the center need through the drafts because it's like, yeah, I really don't want to throw a rookie center into there after all the issues this team just had last year. Um, so yeah, it's the offensive line is more as the offseason's gone on. I kind of have realized and I tweeted this the other day with Taylor Decker, like even that whole dynamic is pretty tough because if he does come back, you still want to
you
view
want to
that
get
as
his replacement.
yeah, like you still
Yeah.
know that's probably the last year, but and at the same time, you still want to, having him back be using it as an advantage. So then you maybe do something else in the draft in the first round. There's just a lot of like, yeah, like we keep going back to. There's just a lot of unknowns right now with what's going to happen, and I kind of do lean. I guess if you had to ask me right now, I guess I'd lean towards Taylor Decker not coming back. And then it's just uh, that's kind of a tough thing. Maybe the answer to that is really going, maybe finding some really great solutions on the interior. If that's, let's say we talked a lot about the Penn State guard in the first round.
Hmm.
Maybe it's some combination of getting him and then like Cade Mays or Connor McGovern at center. Like that, all of a sudden, then you could have honestly a really strong interior to where okay, now you're working in a left tackle. You still have Panay, or even if you want to move Panay to left tackle, but if you really solidify the front three and you have Panay as one of your two tackles, I get you want to have all five amazing, but if you could feel really good about four, whereas opposed to last year, you didn't feel good about center, you didn't feel good about left guard. Decker was hurt all last year, played very admirably, and still averaged to a tick above average. And Tate Ratledge, who you really like at right guard and had a good season, was still a rookie and had growing pains. So it's almost like last year you basically had Sewell as a big win, whereas this year you're hoping, okay, second year Ratledge. Obviously, we have Sewell. If we do get maybe one of the top three, if you get a Cade Mays, McGovern, or Linderbaum in free agency, and then you honestly in the we talked about we don't like just right now the tackles in free agency aren't great. I think there's a number of options in free agency for left guard that you could get that would be huge upgrades that shouldn't be that impossible to do. So I think there's actually there's no excuses not to have a massive upgrade at left guard in my opinion. Center, they clearly are going to have to make an addition. So in my mind, that probably will be some sort of solid upgrade.
Yep.
So I think that's maybe what it's going to have to be. You got to really hammer home the middle and then try to make the best of whatever the left tackle situation looks like next year.
Yeah. It's funny because when you sent yours, I had mine already, and we had similar picks, but there was one pick that was a little bit different from each other. We'll get to that in a minute. But it's funny because I think that like yes, if Decker does retire, let's just reinforce the middle of the offensive line, right?
I think that's the plan. I think
And there's some good
that's
guards
really
available. You picked one, I picked one. We both picked some good centers. So there's ample room to get better at the offensive line. And realistically, there is a really good option for the Detroit Lions at edge. Even if they draft an edge rusher,
I think that's another. I think there's a ton of options at edge, honestly, and especially for the plan that I've kind of talked about all off season in terms of you don't need to get some, Max Crosby or Trey
no,
Hendrickson. You
no.
can go exactly down the Roy Lopez model of getting a guy that you can look at and they're going to give you 15 to 16 plus games. They're going to be reliable with their contributions because that's what this team needs. They need reliable, consistent production on the defensive line. And I think there's ample opportunity to do it in free agency.
And I think there's depth in free agency, which is
Exactly.
great
Yep.
because you
I
can
agree.
get guys cheap. And I think there's one guy in particular who might be chasing a ring that would be great to have on the Detroit Lions.
I want to
He's
see
great.
your list first. I'm pretty intrigued because
We'll go your list first, but
okay.
next we'll go we're gonna go. So we talked about needs, right? So what are we trying to prioritize first? Like I look at it like this. I think center's a need. I think left guard is a need. Edge rusher, obviously, we've talked about it how it's a need because you don't got many edge rushers on the team right now, so you got to go there. You're gonna have to replace Alex Anzalone if he doesn't come back, which I doubt he comes back. You're probably gonna have to make an addition at safety. What do you do at the backup quarterback spot? Does Dave Montgomery get traded? These are all questions, and this is why Brad Holmes has a full plate on for his offseason, to be honest, because there's so many things, and then you need depth at running back. Like there's some depth that you can get there, but you get that in the draft or a UDFA or free agency, like cheap options. But there's so many things that he can go. So, what are your top three needs in your opinion? Like even if it's like
Yeah.
free agency or it's draft and free agency mixed. I'm just trying to get where you're at.
I mean, just by position, I would say number one, center, and then the next two, if you want to rank them however you want to rank them, but I'd go left guard and edge. I think those are my top three positions that I want. And
Yeah.
obviously, tackle is hanging in the balance with what happens with Taylor Decker. But, as we kind of just talked about, if there may not be some elite option, or maybe it's a first round pick or a second round pick at left tackle if Taylor Decker retires. But for me, I think center number one, absolutely, because that's the main cog really of the offensive line. It's going to be what you hope can help you not only in the post snap but in the pre snap. And I think it just is the most important position on the offensive line. And then kind of 1A 1B with edge and left guard. I think edge is a huge uh, area that this team could improve on. I don't think they got really nearly what you need out of really the defensive line as a whole. And honestly, on the defensive line, and I probably haven't said this enough, the defensive line big step might be Aleem McNeil just having to get back to an all-pro caliber. Because if that happens, I think that would free up a lot on the edge. But so maybe I'd rank that third and prioritize left guard, just especially with what we just talked about last segment with left tackle being a question mark and maybe more difficult to sure up for next year. So I'll go center one, left guard two, and edge three.
Yeah, I think so. This is interesting. I'll get to my three, but then I ran our podcast together with the help of AI, and it gave us three of the most things we talked about. So that's an interesting one. But my three are center, left guard, and edge, like you just said. And I think center is the biggest one because we don't know what Graham Glasgow is. And honestly, we should have had a good center last year. They got caught with their pants down, and you kind of screwed the pooch. And when you had Tate Ratledge, next to Graham, and then you were starting Kingsley Egwakon in Minnesota, it's like, okay, you do need a center. Left guard, I can't count on Christian Mahogany to be a starter. So, I mean, I know people like Miles Frazier. I know they like, those, but I
I
need to
mean, those guys can be great depth. Like you
I
add
need
a legit left guard. Now those guys, they're free lottery tickets basically. Like you don't need anything out of them, but if you have to turn to Mahogany as a backup, that's probably a really good option.
yeah, I need to insulate my line with veterans, right?
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
I looked at Mahogany last year, struggled big time.
You did.
And he struggled against certain defensive tackles more than others. Like he struggled against like the kid from Minnesota, Jonathan Allen. Struggled with a lot of other guys. Like he struggled last year to the point where he was replaceable. Graham Glasgow struggled at times. He looked like he was slow. Like he looked like he should retire. But yeah, center is a huge portion. Left guard's a huge portion because like I look at left guard and I go, okay, if Taylor Decker does leave, right? If Taylor Decker does decide to retire, I need to make that interior really good. Like whoever is on the left side, whoever's on the right side, let's make the interior better. I feel like Jared Goff is a quarterback that if he gets pressure up, it's like any quarterback. If you get pressure up the middle, you're dead. You're done.
And he's
So
pretty good, honestly, at the subtle pocket movement, which you can
yes,
get more around if it's only a step here or there to, avoid the pass rush. But yeah, if there's a guy coming right at you, most quarterbacks are gonna, especially
See,
Goff, is gonna be dumped.
I love when you get all spiteful, James, because I hear you all the time going at like, "Oh man, we should have had a mobile quarterback. Look at all the mobile quarterbacks
Oh,
on Super
man.
Bowl." It's like the art of a quarterback
Because
is
Josh
not
Allen gets sacked like 9 times in a game because his
Joe
offensive
Burrow
line.
getting
Yeah,
sacked 8 times, holding on to the ball for like what 4.5 seconds. Look, the art of being a quarterback is not taking the sack when you get pressured. That's the art of a quarterback. And there's a lot of quarterbacks that don't understand it. Like one of the quarterbacks that I love to watch because I think he's older, but he understands the game is Joe Flacco. Like he'll get rid of that ball really quickly, just like Jared Goff. Stafford's the same way. Like they don't need a lot of time. They're just processing it. Boom, 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 boom.
1 year, 1 million. Joe Flacco, backup quarterback to come win a Super Bowl in Detroit next
That
year.
would be sick. It's funny because do you know
I'd
who
like
led
that.
the
Honestly.
yeah, that actually would be a good idea because if you want a backup, you
I would
want Joe
trust him for
Flacco.
a game or two of this offense, and then you're
I
just
would
a
trust
great,
I
great
would trust
veteran Super Bowl winner in the locker
I would
room.
trust him with 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
The guy goes in there and win. I mean, he won games with the Cleveland Browns. Like, get out of here. Um, but I go back to like this. Uh, this is funny. You know who led the league in time to throw? So they held onto the ball long.
Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams. And it wasn't even
Oh,
close.
oh yes. Yeah.
Wasn't even close. I think the next closest was JJ McCarthy, but
Ooh.
it wasn't even close. Like Caleb Williams held onto the ball more than anybody I've ever seen in
He
my
did
entire
as a
life.
rookie. And hey, to Caleb's credit, he's an incredible athlete and he can make some of those plays work. And that probably is his strength, honestly, because I don't know that he's ever going to be this high
Backup. Yeah.
percentage guy. I mean, he was what, 58% or something this year. I'm not a huge Caleb guy still, but I'll eat a little bit of crow that I mean, I think he still had overall a good season because he can hit a lot of big plays and he's still even we'll see if it ends up being sustainable in terms of he hardly ever turns the ball over. And that could be some luck element stuff into that. But yeah, I mean, he holds on to the ball forever. That's why I think there's one, and he's a great athlete. So that the whole Bears offensive line was elite thing. And pass pro, probably not as much, although their run game obviously was pretty effective. So
It'll eventually come back to haunt them when they play teams that can actually rush the passer and get after him. I mean, when teams got after Caleb Williams, it was a different kind of
the
thing.
Lions did really well against them. Even
Exactly. So it
made like 0 points after 3
just
quarters.
goes to show you, like if you get after him, you can really get to him, and he holds onto the ball. So that's what I'm saying. Like you see the new quarterbacks nowadays, like Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, they hold onto the ball a lot. See guys like Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford, Flacco. Those guys, they get rid of the ball so quick. Like you're like, okay, if I could just give you 2.5 seconds, that's it.
Yeah.
You're good. So that's kind of the way where it goes.
Sam Laporta back. So we have Laporta and St. Brown in the slot if we need. Laporta was such a big loss for this team last year.
That's another uncertainty that we
still
have.
top
Like
5 offense.
it's such an uncertainty with tight end. Like obviously we know Sam Laporta, but how is he gonna come back? Like, is it gonna be a reoccurring issue? Is something good? We don't know. Brett Holmes hasn't spoke about it. I think he will speak at the combine, so it'll be interesting to hear him talk. But we miss Sam Laporta in not just the passing game, but the run game too.
Yeah.
Like people don't understand how great he was in the run game. I think that was what you saw the run game just plummet when he left. I don't think that's a awful correlation. But it was interesting.
Wait. You didn't think Anthony Berkser and Horton and
or in whatever
who's the other guy?
Giovanni Ricky.
Him, and then there was even someone else in there that I'm missing. But man, yeah, it's actually crazy how bad the state of the tight ends got.
You didn't lose just one tight end. You lost two tight ends. You lost your 2 top tight ends. So it's impossible for you to kind of, I think, get by with your 3rd tight end. Like, unless you're the Baltimore Ravens where you got 3 high-level tight ends. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen. It was interesting. I took all the podcast notes that we had from the transcripts. I put in AI. This is what it came up with. The biggest need that we talked about was guard. talked about it. It didn't say left guard, but it said guard.
Okay.
Center was second.
Okay.
I think
Pretty
I
accurate.
think I think it's because we were like, so like, yeah, we do need a center. Like, I don't think it's really that high of a talk.
True.
And then the third one was interesting because it was defensive tackle because we talked about defensive tackle. So that's interesting. It
I
was
mean,
also
honestly, if you really look at it, the biggest need on the defensive line, as I just talked about, it could. I probably would make that case is the thing that the Lions defensive line needs most next year is for Aleem McNeil to have a big time year because I really think that's just such a game changer on the defensive line as a whole. And we got basically like Tyreek Williams, a lot of the metrics and some of his win rates, and I think he actually had a pretty solid year. But we
yeah, he
didn't
did.
get like any big time disruption up the middle. Like Aleem McNeil's pressures, I think plummeted basically last year. We just didn't get any force up the middle, and if we can get that, Aiden Hutchinson just had 14 and a half sacks basically with no one, especially no one up the middle, and then one guy out of like three or four that played off the edge. So I think Aleem being because I don't know that we're gonna get another guy on the defensive line unless we go unless we go defensive line in the first round, which could happen. But in terms
Or
of
second
getting
round.
big time, or second round, but just in
Yeah.
terms of like a big time talent, I still think Aleem's probably going to be our second most talented player on the defensive line. So him really stepping up, I think, could be as big as anything for our defensive or our whole entire defense next year.
Yeah, I think that too. So it's interesting what AI said because I just said, let me plug it all in, see what they say. Whatever it says. It said guard, center, and then defensive tackle. Because I think we talked about defensive tackle a lot, especially with Roy Lopez being a free agent and all that jazz. So that was interesting. Now let's get to the big portion of the show because I think well, I know me and you have a little bit of differing opinions on the whole free agency. But we come back to the middle and we say, okay, so top free agency targets, I think we can agree that they're probably going to go target a center. I think we could agree that they're probably going to go target a guard. Here was your list, and I really want to know what your feel about this is. You said it on Twitter, all that jazz. Like Connor McGovern, could Tyler Lindenbaum might be like a guy like a little bit unrealistic, but I'll give you it because it's like okay, I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be someone's going to pay out the nose from.
Yeah.
And it was interesting. One of the things I read today. Do you know who had the second worst pressure rate for centers?
Linderbaum.
Linderbaum, yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Glasgow
Actually,
was
that list, like I just saw that list and I was like, wow, because I was kind of honestly on the fence as far as is Cade Mays like would he be a guy to really invest in? And I honestly think I changed my mind to I view him now as another like if we got Cade Mays, I'd be very happy. So if even on my list, if like I put so how I set that out is I was like, okay, I'm going to put Linderbaum at one just because I still ultimately think like if the Lions got Tyler Linderbaum as like their big move of the offseason, I still would be absolutely thrilled with that. I think as a talent and just what he is as a player, I think would be perfect for the Lions. And he's a big time athlete. I loved him coming out of college, honestly. I think he had a big wrestling background as well. I just think a perfect player for the center position. But let's even just eliminate him as he's probably is going to be unrealistic to get. Then I still think you have two really good center options with Connor McGovern and Cade Mays up there. Uh,
mhm.
and we talked about center is probably the number one position you need to attack. So Linderbaum probably goes super high. McGovern probably still has a pretty good market, but I don't know that everyone can get paid. So if the Lions do like Cade Mays, I mean, you just referenced that list of pressure rate for centers. I think Cade Mays ranked like 11. To reference what the Lions had
Yeah,
last year, I
11,
think
yep.
Graham Glasgow was like 22 or something.
Yep.
So I mean, that would be a pretty significant upgrade with just off that stat. But I think Cade Mays is, probably pretty. Most of these lists you look at for top free agents, like he's on every like top 25, top 50 type range, just because he's a guy that is gonna be a starting center in the NFL. So that'll be, I guess, that'll be an interesting. It's just hard to know who do the do they think McGovern and Mays are good, and is it realistic to get one of those guys? That I really don't know, but I kind of like all three of those guys just in terms of targets. And then I put Isaac Samalu. I don't even know if I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong. Veteran
It's going to be hard to butcher. It's going to be you're going to butcher his name to death. I think
Isaac
anybody will.
Siamalo, actually. Is that what it is? Isaac
Yeah.
Siamalo. That's what I'm going to go with. But 30, I think 31, 32 years old. PFF gave him a 75 this year, played left guard for Pittsburgh. Had a really good year. I think he ranked extremely well, like top 10 overall in the pass game. And then the run game, he was still top 30, I think, overall as a guard. Most websites and projections have him as a 1-year deal at like $7 to $8 million.
Yep.
Kind of just a plug and play big upgrade over what the Lions had last year. And there are a few other guys that you could pick from in that same category. So that's, we talk about what positions are good for free agency, what are not. We kind of said tackle's tough. Center, if you don't get one of those three guys, maybe it could be tricky. Guard, I think there's a number of options that you could go with and feel like that is a pretty big upgrade over to what the Lions had at left guard. And you would think that, and most of them are kind of veteran guys that you would get for a 1-year deal for not crazy money, and especially someone that probably fully believes like, yes, I'll go to the Lions and compete to win, try to win a championship, play for Dan Campbell, play on the same offensive line as Penei Sewell. So I think there's, if you don't like the guy I picked, I think there's 2 or 3 or probably 4 or 5 plus options you could get there at left guard to be an upgrade if they want to do that via free agency. Yeah.
So you picked Isaac Samalo, okay? Samulu, whatever, Samalu, whatever. The Pittsburgh guard. He ranked 6th among left guards with a 3.23 pressure rate, which is a lot better than my guy that I picked. So you do win this round. You get it back from after the.
Let's go.
So you did a good job there. It's interesting because you mentioned also mentioned Draymond Jones and Nick Cross, which those are pretty good. I think Draymond Jones is a guy who I'm really familiar with since he was a Tennessee Titan, but Nick Cross is an interesting guy. I think we both have some interesting guys that we picked, but Draymond Jones, like, what's your feeling about that?
Yeah, he just kind of to a T almost fits what I want the Lions to go after as far as an edge player. Almost that same. I keep kind of beating it to death, but the Roy Lopez model of let me find a guy that every time, if you just look at his cookie cutter stats, he's someone that I can pencil in every game from a health standpoint. Draymond Jones has played 17 plus games each of the last 3 years. Actually, last year with getting traded from Tennessee to Baltimore, he played 9 games for each team. So he actually played 18 games last year. I don't think he's ever played anything less than 13. He's pretty much always in that 15 to 17 range. And then similar with production, I think he had 3.5 sacks his rookie year, but then every year after that, it's closer to 6 or 7. Last year he had 7. I think the lowest amount he's had in that frame is 4. In that time period is 4. So you can basically pencil him in for 17 games, and he's going to give you 5 to 7 sacks. He fits the kind of frame that the Lions loosely, I think, want. I think he's listed as like 6'3", 280. Played a lot of snaps last year. So along with the, playing every game, he's out there a lot. So, and he's projected at, I think PFF had him at like 10 million per, which isn't, crazy, but also if, you're just comparing him to Al-Quadin Muhammad, like I think PFF actually even had him at 8 sacks last year, Draymond Jones. So it's basically, very similar production sacks wise. And I think Draymond Jones even had a career high in pressures last year as well. But you're also getting a guy that's basically on the field, almost double the amount that Al-Quadin Muhammad was last year. So really in an ideal world, I'd love to have Draymond Jones and Al-Quadin Muhammad. And if your parent, like I just doing some loose math, like let's say you get Draymond Jones for 9 million. He's projected at like 10. And Al Quddin Muhammad, we kind of thought at the beginning of the season people were kind of throwing around some crazy numbers. I've seen now closer to like 6 million, maybe like 6-7 million for Al Quddin Muhammad. I mean, you're getting, let's just say you do that. That's 15 million combined for those two guys. And last year they combined for like 18 sacks or something like that. So even if you're shaving off a good amount of that and you're getting 13 sacks out of those two guys, 12 sacks, like 6 each, like I just think you add one more guy into that mix, you're probably drafting someone in the first or second round on the defensive line too, and all of a sudden you have 3+ guys there that you can rely on and are going to give you something. And as you talked about earlier in the show, there's a lot of depth at that edge rusher spot. And even if you kind of throw in some hybrids with linebackers who are more of get after the quarterback guys, there's a lot of those pieces in this free agency that you can piece together a rotation with. And then with Nick Cross, we talked about the safety position, maybe needing some insurance there. And he's someone that, again, is projected at the very low end of starter money, if starter money at that position. I think I saw like 6 to 8 million on per year on PFF. But that's a guy that's kind of a safety linebacker hybrid. You can put him out there to cover like a tight end and not feel like he's going to get burned, but he's also really effective at the line of scrimmage. I think he had 15 pressures last year. Good at blitzing. The Colts really like to utilize them. I think kind of similar to how the Lions like to use some of their players that line up at that spot, like when Brian Branch lines up more at nickel. Nick Cross has some similar blitzing and run stuffing type designs there, and then he's also more of a safety by trade, but kind of a combo linebacker too. So I think he's that guy that almost is like a chess piece of, if you have everyone healthy with Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch, I still think you could find a role for him out there. Absolutely. And then if one of those guys is out for an extended period of time, I do think he could play some good safety snaps too. So I just think a solid, versatile player and really good on special teams as well.
Yeah, so I think you hit it on the head. I think a lot of those picks are really good. Nick Cross will be potentially making 6 million flat, which is a little bit less than the guy I picked. So there you go. And then edge defender, we talked about Draymond Jones. He's scheduled to make 10.3 per sport track. So
I'd hope to, like, if you could get him under 10 million, I'd feel like that would be a really great value, just in terms of pencil him in for every game of the season, and he's going to get you 5 to 7 sacks. Anything over 10, maybe you're overpaying a little bit, and there might be some better options. But I just think as a profile of a guy that is going to be reliable and productive, that's kind of the guy I'm looking for.
yeah, so ESPN made I don't know if you saw it, James. They made a fit of Joey Bosa to the Detroit Lions, which I was irate about. I made a video about it. I was a little bit pissed off. How could you think that this is a guy is a fit? Whatever the case may be. So, anyways, they say he's a fit. So here's my guys. I got at 1, I got Connor McGovern, Boye Mafe, the edge from Seattle, Joe Bitonio from the Cleveland Browns. I should mention this too because I was going to mention it anyways. Ethan Poich, the center for the Browns. Drew Petting, Browns. Bitonio, Pochich. You could probably get one of them, maybe two of them, and that'd be pretty good because they had a pretty good offensive line. So I do
really like that. To fully interrupt you there, I really like that you brought up the Petzing connection. I know you would have to trade for him, but the Froyholt Center on Arizona, I've seen people kind of kick his name around too as maybe a guy you could trade for that wouldn't cost you a crazy amount. I think he's kind of in that model too, potentially.
If you really want to be honest, I think Pochich is a better center than Froyholt. And you can get Pochich. He's 30. He's gonna be 31 this year. 10.57. That's not bad. But I would rather get Cade Mays or Connor McGovern, to be honest.
Yeah.
But still a good backup plan to like Graham Glasgow. Because if we talk about Pochich as the guy Last year he was where was he in the he was 13th in pressure rate, which is better than Graham Glasgow, better than some of these other guys. So pretty good. 13th is pretty good. I think if you're top 15, that's
Yeah, for
pretty good.
sure.
But Connor McGovern was eighth. Cade Mays was 11th. Pochich was 13th, and then Linderbaum was 31st. So there you go. So Joe Batonio would be the guy that I would look at. I mean, do you look at Joe Batonio? People wanted to throw a second round pick at the guy last year. So there you go.
Really
Reed,
like the last two guys quite a bit. I saw those two names, and was when I was doing my research, and I was like, if the Lions, Cam Jordan, if he ever left the Saints, I would be thrilled to have him. And then Reed Blankenship, yeah, I think that would be a perfect guy to have on this team,
I
as a
think I
guy that
think
you could
I
play
think
even if you have your guys healthy, and I would like to have him out there.
I think if even if Kirby and Branch are healthy, you could throw them in maybe
I like
box.
that.
You could throw him in at Branch's spot and then put Branch in the box. It'd be great. And he's gonna come in at a cheaper price tag. I think he's a good tackler. Like I forgot what his tackle rate. His missed tackle rate was like one of the lowest in the NFL by far. So he makes tackles.
If that came
Cameron
through the
Jordan.
kicker, I'd be either honestly any of these two guys, but particularly those last two. Now that we're talking about them, I would be so excited if the Lions got either of these guys.
So my thought about Cameron Jordan is this. Okay, I have developed a love for a certain prospect, uh, and I can't get over it. I think Nadeem Tucker, the kid from Western Michigan, he's edge rusher.
Yep.
His stats are canny. These stats are just ridiculous when you talk about Nadeem Tucker. Think about this. He has a pressure rate. Where is it? I lost it. God dang it, I lost it. He has a pressure rate of like 30%. Like he's that good. Oh, there it is. Here we go. His pressure rate is 28.4%. His run stop rate is 9.3, which is elite. Um, he had 14 sacks last year, 6 hits on the quarterback, 41 hurries. And I don't care if you play in the MAC or SEC, 14 sacks is 14 sacks. It means he can get up to the quarterback. He wins that key level. So my kind of thought about Cameron Jordan is this: I bring Cameron Jordan for a year. Say you have a chance to win a Super Bowl. Cam Jordan last year, if you want to know how good Cam Jordan was for the New Orleans Saints, which is pretty much a terrible team, 10 sacks, 36 pressures. Um, I mean, he had as many sacks as
Dan
Demarcus Lawrence.
Campbell guy.
Yeah, Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell knows him. He's a good locker room guy. Like he's not gonna come in there and make it all about him. He's gonna come in there, be team first. And I like that he would be like a guy, like a kind of like if you did draft an edge rusher, like you don't have to be Tucker. It could be like, let's say you drafted a guy like let's say you drafted Kendrick Falk or TJ Parker or Massador, who's he's an older draft pick. Just learning from Cameron Jordan and Aiden Hutchinson would be great. And then if you could fill in the edge depth with like, this is kind of like if I was gonna fill in the edge depth, like I think about a guy like who's the guy that I was thinking? Like Charles Owenu, he's 3.5 million. If you want to bring in like a guy who's a younger guy, like maybe you bring in a Joe Tryon who was with Chicago, maybe he flourishes here. Sam Williams from Dallas, maybe he could be a pass rush specialist, Josh Uche, who I think he's coming from Philadelphia, he can come at a cheap price tag. So I think
Quiddy
all these.
Pay, he's available too.
Oh yeah, Quiddy Pay is available. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's so many guys at this edge. That was one of the positions that I was like, geez, like I just kept like typing out guys. I'm like, oh, this name's intriguing. I'll look more into them. There's a lot of guys. And the other thing that was really interesting, just as in a note looking at all these guys, is the amount of free agents that are available this year that like going into last year, you could basically get them for nothing. And now they're getting like huge deals. So like,
Yeah.
that's even more to the point of, I'm sure there's a lot of these, to an extent, Roy Lopez, like when the Lions signed him, no one was really excited or like, they're like, oh, okay, he's solid. But now he's probably going to make twice as much but just as a guy that, you weren't maybe excited about, but is was a big contributor. And then there's so many of these other players that literally were making nothing. Like, we were talking about safeties, Jalen Hawkins on the Patriots, who was
Yep.
basically an absolute nobody. And then I wanted to include him on my list, but the more I looked at him, like some of these sites have him making like close to 15 million per year, and he was like a nobody last year. So there's gonna,
Jalen Yeah, Jalen
yeah,
Hawkins, 8.2 from Sport Track. I think
okay.
PFF had him at like 15.
Yeah, I think that's what I saw, PFF, and a really good player. I'm sure he'll get paid. But you can probably find like the Lions are going to take their chances on a couple of guys like that. Like, and I think
Yeah.
they should like go get two or three guys that you're going to pay nothing. You're not even really worried if they make the team. And you could probably find a couple of hidden gems in there as well. So there's a lot of opportunity in free agency, and I really think you're going to see some contract restructures, and really once that happens, it's going to be honestly really fascinating to see how they go about delegating, what they have to spend.
It's gonna be interesting because I mean, they could free up as much as what we saw Patrick Mahomes get his deal freed up. It freed up $46 million or something like that. I think they could do whatever they need to do. They got enough.
Agreed.
I think St. Brown could be restructured, which I think they'd be fine with. Sewell could be restructured, which I think they would be fine with. I think Sewell would be like that too. Um, there's a lot, like you said, there's a lot of depth in the positions that you need. Like I look at a guy like, I mean, I'm just looking at like the safety list and like a guy
How many players at safety?
like Ronnie Hickman from the Cleveland Browns. I mean, he's a restricted free agent, so it's not likely that you would get him. But like for instance, like Jordan Poyer, maybe you can bring him in on a cheap deal. Jalen Mills, who was with Detroit last year, 1.2 million. Jimmy Ward, 1.3 million. Chuck Clark, 1.4 million. You have,
They still
you know,
have who's the young player? We still have Thomas Harper under contract, right?
I believe so.
Think
Yeah, I
we
believe
do.
so.
Which
Yeah.
that's honestly pretty solid. I like that as depth. Like he was a guy that we kind of got in like the waiver wire process, or I can't remember exactly at the beginning of last year, but I think we locked in his contract and it's
Yep.
like basically for nothing.
Hmm.
That's at least one guy as a depth piece that I think maybe if you do, and we haven't like maybe they honestly, it's probably worth mentioning like bringing back Avante Maddox or Rock
Yes.
Dean because I think both those guys would come back here at pretty much what you paid them last year. Like is just basically you're paying them nothing and
Yep.
you're confident they can be at least solid backup depth. I
Yep.
kind of would think at least one of those two guys would be back.
I think Avante Maddox would definitely be back, and I think Brock Gibson would come back too. Obviously, being a starter, he wasn't good, but he just his depth, it's pretty good depth. You know what I'm saying? It didn't help that all three starters went out at the same time, so
Yeah.
that kind of sucked. Um, there was a guy that I was thinking about with safety, Cameron Curl, who Brad Holmes was played a role in the
He's
Rams
like listed
drafting.
as one of the top safeties available.
Yeah, but he's comes in at 10 million and
Okay.
my kind of barometer for like if I was gonna sign someone was 7 5 and below.
Okay.
So Blankenship came in there, Nick Cross came at 6 million. So we picked some good guys. I mean, Joe, but these are guys I like. You like these guys, Linderbaum, McGovern, Samulu, Draymond Jones, Nick Cross, and these are not bad picks by any stretch of the imagination. I think if we signed, let's put it in perspective. Let's say we signed McGovern. Let's say we signed Joe Batonio, or we signed Samolu, one of the two guys, and we signed either uh, Reed Blankenship or Nick Cross. I think that'd be a pretty damn good haul, to be honest. And then if you did throw like a Cameron Jordan in there, maybe you throw in a Draymond Jones or a Bofe Mafe. Because I look at these guys, you mentioned Mafe, and not I mentioned Mafe. Draymond Jones comes in at 10.3 million, so he'd be coming more less than Boye Mafe, who I did like at Minnesota. Mafe is a little bit younger, so maybe that's why he costs a little bit more. But I think there's ample opportunities to get better in here. And it's funny because I look at Cameron Jordan, how much he can make, 6.7 million, a million less than Al Muhammad, and I think that'd probably be a better deal.
Cameron Jordan's an absolute no-brainer. Everything you ever read about him is just, will he ever leave the Saints? And the Lions might be one of the few teams you could justify him leaving to just off the Dan Campbell connection. And, if he really wants to make a real push to win something and doesn't want to completely sacrifice like the relationship side of things. But yeah, I mean, if Cameron Jordan leaves New Orleans, I would be. You're right. He would. I would take him over Al Qadim Muhammad, and he would be pencil him in as a starter, and he would be like maybe even a captain. Honestly, year one. So yeah, that would be a grand slam signing to me if they got Cameron Jordan.
And let's say, okay, let's give you a hypothetical because this is an interesting hypothetical to be honest. You could sign one of the three linebackers. You could sign Bobby Wagner at 7.6 million for 1 year, uh, Nakobe Dean at $7.8 million, or Alex Anzalone at $7.2 million. Who are you signing?
Oh man,
This is what I've been.
I'm gonna take Nakobe Dean just
Okay.
as the. I could be wrong though. Maybe you just bring back because we all kind of just completely say Alex Anzalone's gone. I think he is. He still did have a pretty solid year last year, and I still think his coverage ability is going to be good enough next year to where that alone is valuable at that position because Jack Campbell just seemingly can clean up everything else. But I also really like Nakobe Dean as just an athlete, and I think he would bring a little bit more at bringing pressure and getting after the quarterback, and maybe that's a skill set that we could use a little bit more. Because for as great as Jack Campbell is, I still don't, and I think he's going to continue to elevate at this. But if we can just have more like elite bodies that can get after the quarterback, which I think is what Nakobe Dean is, that's more what I view him as, just a great athlete that can get to the quarterback and is athletic enough to basically do anything a linebacker needs. Alex Anzalone, I think, is a little bit more. I think he's going to be more in his spot at the right time. I think Nakobe Dean, you know his athleticism. I don't know that he's as pure as a pass coverage player as Alex Anzalone. Those two really have pretty interesting counteracting skill sets because Alex is a good athlete, but nowhere near as good as Nakobe Dean. So, and Bobby Wagner, for what an absolute legend that guy is. Honestly, if the Lions signed him, I would be excited just because that guy's an absolute dog, and he's just like the fact that he still can play at a high level right now is crazy.
Mhm.
Like those are the you maybe just named like the three guys that I'd probably like that are free agents right now that I'd want the most. So, but I'd go with Nakobe Dean just as this switch up intrigue factor if it's going to cost the same.
Yeah, I think Nakobe Dean would be interesting. Bobby Wagner was the best run defender last year, so that'd be
Okay,
nice with
that might
Jake.
be just
But
keep doubling down.
the thing you are missing with Alex Anzalone when he leaves, he was the best linebacker in coverage with
He
a
was great in coverage.
65.6% reception percentage, and he gave up a league, well, not a league low, a third league low in yards after the catch, and he had 5 forced incompletions, which is pretty good, forced incompletions. So, and when he was targeted, the quarterback rating for the quarterback was 88.8, which was not the greatest, but he was top 15. So there you go. It's pretty. Devin Lloyd who's a free agent too, was also up there, and so was where's Devin White was up there too. So
I'm going to make a prediction on Alex Anzalone. I think I've seen a lot of people smarter than me also say this. He seems like a really great fit in Tampa Bay, Alex Anzalone, and I could see Tampa Bay paying more than the Lions would for him.
see, it wouldn't make much sense for Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay doesn't make much sense with their free agency signings, and it would be a
I
Todd
think
Bowles
Todd
thing.
Bowles defense.
Yeah,
They value the linebacker position. Todd Bowles is really good at getting linebackers to the quarterback. And if you combine that with already his really good coverage skills, I think he could be a I could just see them really valuing him and giving him a good contract, which I think is the most important factor for Alex Anzalone is what team will pay him the most and value him the most.
Pretty much, and I think he would go wherever it needs to go. And if you want to go in linebackers, I was looking at linebackers in the draft. Like if you want to be honest, there's a couple linebackers that stand out to me, like the Rodriguez kid from Texas Tech. He stands out to me. Josiah Trotter, but they're different types of linebackers. It's going to be interesting to see what Brad Holmes does there because
Is
I'm not
Sonny
looking.
Styles supposed to go way before
Oh yeah,
17?
oh yeah.
Okay.
Sonny Styles is
Where's like a consensus he's gonna get picked at right now?
so Sonny Styles is. I did a fake mock draft just to get the Lions pick or whatever. Sonny Styles went 7.
Okay.
Everell Reese went to the Jets at 2. So they had 2 linebackers in the top 10 for Ohio
Arbel
State.
Reese is like he's like a Micah Parsons, basically, is what
Yes.
I'd compare him to. Whereas Sonny Styles is he's not really a he's almost like upgraded out. Like I think he could be really great in pass coverage, and he could be like a complete more of a complete linebacker. But I get yeah, that makes sense. I just wasn't sure exactly where he was getting picked at right now.
I gotta give this Pro Football Focus mock draft full credit because these might be the 2 most on-brand picks I've ever seen in my entire life.
For the Lions.
No,
Oh,
pick
okay.
pick 10 to the Bengals. Carnell Tate, wide receiver.
That would be so funny. They can't do that. That's so ridiculous that they would even put that there. That's the wide receiver, right?
Yeah,
Oh my
and then
god, that'd be so. They should disband the franchise if they did that.
pick 11 is the Dolphins, and they picked Jordan Tyson, the kid from Arizona State, the wide
Oh
receiver.
yeah, that guy is. I mean, both those guys are really good, but man,
But you guys don't need those guys. Like you need big guys, and
definitely not the Bengals.
you see this is where it gets just depressing for Detroit is the Cowboys got Cassius Hall, the edge from Texas A&M, who's really freaking good.
From
The
Bowling
Rams
Green,
the
too.
Rams get richer with Peter Woods from Clemson, which is unbelievable. So
I've seen also that the Rams are pretty interested in Ty Simpson because they know Stafford's going to be gone pretty soon, and I guess they like him as a prospect.
yeah, it's interesting. Ty Simpson would be an interesting pick. They would have to.
You would really want to get someone in with at least a year with Stafford, if that's you know what I mean. Like that
Yeah,
would be really valuable to have that year under him.
and obviously the Raiders aren't giving up Mendoza, so you're
Right.
kind of stuck there. So I mean, maybe they can get Ty Simpson in early in the second, but they would probably just take him in the first round. And obviously, the combine is going to determine a lot of things here.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
this was a good one. Obviously, we'll post our picks of the free agents that we picked on Twitter. I'll give you your graphic. We can post our graphics, and then I'll have the quotes from the podcast. But it's interesting, James, because we kind of had similar guys, but just went around it a different way. So
Yeah, sure.
it was kind of on brand for us, but it was very interesting. But yeah, this whole thing, the free agency is going to be bananas. Obviously, the
We're so
combine
close
starts.
to like really interesting stuff happening. Honestly, I mean, we've basically been in this like just the breakdown phase, but it feels like any day now, like something really interesting could happen with the Lions. And then at minimum, you got Brad Holmes probably talking soon, maybe a new president hire or hearing from Rod Wood
Yep.
basically around the same time, and then the combine and then free agency. Very, really, you think about it, like March 9 is the tampering period, and then I assume even like even the day before, 2 days before that, like Lions fans are just going to be going crazy. Like rumors are going to be going nuts. Like
Oh yeah.
so many
You,
things are
you,
going to be like
that's
getting
why
swirled
that's
around.
why we did what we did with the whole positional breakdown, and we'll post the safeties and cornerback video I did when James he was sick. So I'll post that for tomorrow. Well, I'll post that sometime so people have the whole playlist so they can go through it. That's why we did the positional breakdowns for the combine, because it gets us to the combine. It gives us a good glimpse of what we need. We talked about the needs, talked about the free agents that we can go get. Obviously, we would have loved to see if Taylor Decker's come back right now, but we're not privy to that. But next week, the combine starts. Things are going to start going in motion. We'll talk about the combine next week on the show. Players that we like, kind of like stuff like that. what Brett Holmes said. It'll be interesting because like you said, James, this is going to be from here on out. It's going to be like news, news,
This
news,
is the
news,
best
news,
part.
news.
Really, this is the best part of the off season for me. Like you have the first, however long it takes to get here. Ideally, we would have made the playoffs and won some games, so it wouldn't have felt nearly as long. And then you have the post draft, which is, in my opinion, kind of boring too, when you're just basically trying to get towards at least training camp and then the season. But the like free agency and the draft alone, like that month build up and period is like crazy because that's you're building your whole team basically right now. So
It's crazy the way the draft, the whole free agency works because like I remember my birthday is on the 19th of March. I remember that was the day we signed.
26. I'm a week later.
Oh, yours is March 26th?
Yeah.
Alright.
Yep.
That's a good day. Fight night
Yeah.
at the Joe, yeah. It
Nice.
it it's interesting, James, because, like, I remember March 19th, a couple years ago, we signed Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, so it literally
Yep.
goes through the whole month, and then you get to the draft, and it's mock drafts galore. Like, it seems like every, Tom, Dick, and Harry has a mock draft that they're coming out with, like, my favorite mock drafts are the ones that have, like, 70,000 trades, you know what I'm saying?
It's like 6 trades in the top 10.
You're like, "This is never gonna happen," but I love it. Like, I really do. And then there was a guy I was gonna tag him in it. He did a first round mock draft of everybody he drafted in the first round was a non-power 5 guy or
Yes.
non-power
Oh,
4.
I need to see that. Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
Great.
It was freaking amazing. We had like Middle Tennessee State and North Dakota State.
Toledo has a safety that should be drafted pretty high. I forget his
Yeah,
name. Like a 3 named kid. I should know his name. He's really good. He's whatever
Emmanuel
he picked.
McNeil Warren
Yeah,
from
that
Toledo.
totally legitimate big time prospect at
Uh,
safety.
yeah, he's a beast. He had
He
5
is
forced incompletions,
really
passer rating
long and
allowed.
rangy, great athlete, great instincts.
He plays all over too. Played in the
He does.
slot, corner, box,
Yep.
deep.
I
Just
honestly, I don't know where he's going to get picked, but if he somehow fell into the Lions' lap, I would be thrilled with him. Even though I don't think the fit will end up working out, but I think that kid's going to be really good.
he fits. He falls on 35, and if you go to 35 is where the Titans are picking.
Okay.
Titans won't pick him, but Detroit picks at 50. So
Yeah,
if he
maybe
fell a little bit,
he'd be value at. If he fell to 50, I would feel confident. That'd be like, okay, this guy's probably going to be great. But yeah, I guess that's just a name because he is. He might be someone too that once the combine comes, he moves up a little bit.
and that's the thing about these mock drafts. I did one mock draft; it was pretty good, but guys that I think that are going to be going up high they're gonna go up high. One of the guys I kind of mentioned is Bud Clark. I think from TCU. I think he's going to be a guy who could potentially vault up draft boards. And I mentioned Nadeem Tucker. You mentioned Emmanuel McNeil Warren. Those are all guys that could just vault up. Like it's
How
gonna.
crazy that the Western Michigan defensive coordinator now is, I'm pretty sure, the Los Angeles Chargers defensive coordinator. I'm pretty
Yep.
sure. Like that
Mhm.
shows you how good. Like that's probably pretty good reference to the Western Michigan player because that's a pretty insane jump to go from MAC defensive coordinator to NFL defensive coordinator in 1 year.
Ugh,
Western Michigan had like basically a Power 5
defense.
this year. Yeah, they were very, very good.
It was insane, and they have another guy who could potentially go as a linebacker who could go in late in the draft, and I would actually think about him for depth, to be honest, because he's a guy that can play every position and he can rush the passer, which he's an absolute beast rushing the passer. But combines next week. We'll talk more about draft prospects next week because there's going to be a ton of stuff. Brad Holmes will probably speak. We'll talk about that. Maybe we'll learn something about Taylor Decker. As we said in the earlier opening, nothing is certain, man. We know nothing. So we'll see you guys in the next podcast. We talk more Detroit Lions football. We'll have a new outro and intro. So just enjoy this one last time with JMO catching a pass in
Great.
Tampa Bay, which I know James loves.
Love this play.